Hi, and welcome to our webinar today with Conor from Spark UK. I'm really excited to have Conor here to talk about the sort of youth mental health, because there's a lot of noise, I think, about adults' mental health, and corporates are really good. And we've talked about this just a minute ago. Corporates are really good at dealing with this and sharing knowledge and getting experts in, and schools sometimes are a little bit behind. But what's really refreshing about what Conor's done is he's created a sort of community of people who are all young people who've all had different experiences, and therefore they can add that sort of voice of the youth there, which sometimes as adults we sort of guess or presume what young people are feeling or thinking. So it's really quite refreshing to have Conor here to speak about his lived experience and the work that he's doing with Spark. So I'm going to pass you over to Conor, but please feel free to ask any questions. I'll put it in the chat as well, but ask questions of Conor too. He's more than happy to answer them. So Conor, over to you. Please introduce yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Katie. Is it possible that the slides are?
It is indeed.
Thank you very much. There we go. So thank you. As Katie said, my name is Conor Warren. I am 18 years old and I'm the CEO and founder of Spark UK, which is the UK's leading youth-led mental health organisation. Bit of a mouthful. I'll explain it all in a minute. And I have just finished year 13, living in Ilfracombe in North Devon. So I'm a year 13 student. I studied drama, media and business. So I absolutely hated exams, could not do exams for the life of me. I remember walking to the exam halls for my GCSEs and basically forgetting everything I've ever been taught. And I didn't do great in my GCSEs. So when joining sixth form, I decided to do BTECs, because those of you that know about BTECs, they are much simpler when it comes to exams. It's more coursework focused, and it allowed me to just sort of learn on the job rather than having to learn all this knowledge and then not being able to practically use it. It'd be really good if you guys could sort of introduce yourselves in the comments. So maybe put who you are, where you work, and maybe where you live in the UK, just so I can see who's about. But yes, as I said, I'm the CEO and founder of Spark UK. So we are an award-winning mental health organisation run by young people. I founded the organisation when I was 14, and we're now in our 4th year running, and we're in just over 300 schools around the UK. Our aim is to spark conversations around mental health, and everything we do is created by young people. We create lessons, resources and campaigns for thousands of young people. We've got over 300 schools across the UK that use our resources, and they're all free and accessible. We also work on university research projects. So we're currently involved in 4 projects with different universities, including Exeter and UCL. And they range on a huge number of topics. One is looking at the impact gender has on mental health. Another one is looking at the use of terminology and how that within education is impacting young people's mental health. And personally, my most favorite one, if I can say that, is actually looking at the differences between mental health systems in urban areas compared to rural areas. So as I said, I live in North Devon, which is quite a rural area. It is hours away from absolutely everything. I think it takes about 5 hours by public transport to get to London, which is not great. But this project and this research project is looking at the differences in urban areas compared to rural areas and seeing how we can create a more overarching support system for young people. As an organisation, we also work with many other charities and organisations. In the past few years, we've worked with people such as BAFTA, Place2Be, Mind, Beyond, all these incredible charities we've worked with in many different capacities. And as you can see here, we've got our team. So we've got Noah and Joseph, who are our youngest members, who are both 17. They're both in full-time education, doing their A-levels as well. We've then got Bridie, Tegan and Kaya, who are older members. And Bridie is at her first year. No, she's in her 2nd year of university now. She's doing clinical psychology at Exeter. And Tegan and Kaya are both in full-time employment now, working full-time. And then I'm right in the middle. I'm sort of sandwiched in between them all within age. And yeah, we all have been there from the start. We've all been running this organisation together 4 years. And everything you see by Spark is done by us. everything is done by young people, because our biggest thing is we know what young people want. We know what young people want to see. We always joke that we started on a rant. So we all met up for coffee 4 years ago and was talking about the mental health systems. And we said, in an ideal world, what would we like? Then we said, why are we saying in an ideal world? Why don't we just try doing this ourselves? And 4 years later, here we are. So very ambitious, as you'll see. I'm a very ambitious person. And yeah, we try to do as much as we can. Over the years, we've been really lucky to be featured in Men's Health, Metro, Guardian. We had the One Show do a short film about us. So we've been really lucky to share the message around youth voice and mental health within mainstream media and help to support young people to actually sort of open up about mental health. And we've had people from all walks of life, including grandparents, parents, who have all emailed us and said that by seeing us on TV or by hearing us on the radio, it's allowed them to open up conversations within their own house. And for us, that's really rewarding, as we've been allowed to kind of spark those conversations, as we say. You can also send some of these photos. We've been, again, really lucky. We've met Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the, he is the Speaker still, the Speaker of the Houses of Parliament. We also met Fern Cotton a few weeks back, as we are one of her chosen charities for her Happy Place Festival. So all very exciting. Our main project that we run every year is our All-Star Advent Calendar. So this is the first thing that we ever did as an organisation, and we're now in our 4th year running this campaign. And the premise is every day in December, we have celebrities sending in videos, giving tips of the day on mental health. Over the past few years, we've had people including Dame Thompson, Dame Judi Dench. We've had Stephen Fry, who is actually back for the 4th year in a row this year. We've also had Bradley Walsh, Fern Cotton, Dr. Alex, and I think my personal favourite will always be Basil Brush, just because it's Basil Brush. Who doesn't love Basil Brush? And yeah, the aim of the campaign is to get celebrities, whether they are Hollywood celebrities such as Judi Dench, or even down to your Love Islanders and your YouTubers, by getting everybody together in one campaign and giving them a space to give a tip on mental health. It allows young people to actually see somebody they relate to, somebody that they look up to, talking about it and sort of engaging with those tips. And hopefully technology will work and I can play the trailer.
Merry Christmas, dudes!
Hi, I'm Riyadh Khalaf.
Hello, I'm Mark McKinney.
It's Judi Dench.
Mental health is something that we all come across in our daily lives and we've all experienced at some point. And it's something that, just like our physical health, we need to take care of.
Obviously, Christmas can be quite a tricky time for many people.
I think, especially at this time of year, it's really important to reach out to our friends, our family, and the people that we care about.
And although sometimes it may not feel like you've got somebody there who cares, I promise you there is always somebody who is going to be on the other end of the phone, on the other end of a FaceTime, who will always want to help you.
I hope you have a heavenly day.
There we go. So, as you can see, we've had a huge number of celebrities send in videos, and the campaign's back for another year this year. 10th of October, we announced the campaign and launched it. It's all free. Everything we do is completely free and accessible for schools. You can sign up through our website and you get a whole host of everything, basically. And yeah, that's sort of a very nutshell of what we do at Spark. I'm now going to go on about all sorts of stuff, but that is kind of a rundown of who I am and why I'm talking about this. I've got a question and I will see if we get some answers. But self-care is something that's spoken about quite a lot. I think a few years ago was a bit of a Instagram hashtag self-care kind of thing, that everybody thought self-care is just this kind of sort of word that people are saying that they don't actually know what it means. But in reality, self-care, in my opinion, is one of the most important things to have in your day-to-day life. It's about looking after yourself. So my question is, what self-care acts do you follow? What acts of self-care do you do in your life? It'd be really good if you get any comments, anybody that would like to share any. If not, I'll give some.
Yeah, it'd be nice if someone types something. We've got people on watching. So yeah, if you can just type type something about what you do to look after yourself. I think it's a good question, isn't it? And I know from a teaching point of view, quite often I would be looking after my students, I'd be looking after my colleagues, and I wouldn't necessarily be looking after myself. And since leaving teaching, I've now realized how little time I sort of spent on looking after myself, but how important it is, because if you feel happy and confident in yourself, that kind of it almost is like a yawn, isn't it? It's infectious, and it can help with lots of other people as well. So I've definitely noticed that with my children. If I'm looking after myself and doing some of my own hobbies and interests as well, that's great. It rubs off on them. Awesome. I've got Jennifer there. That's daily baths. I love that.
That is brilliant. I think they are so important. Baths, here we go. Spend time to be outside in the garden of nature, be calm, collective, be yourself. That's all absolutely brilliant. I think my favorite one I always say, which is probably not the best thing that I should be saying, is lying on the sofa with a tub of Ben & Jerry's watching Netflix. That is
that's nice. What flavour?
Cookie dough. It has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. I live not too far from the sea, so I do find that if we go to the beach, we live near the Purbex, go down there and just listen to the waves. And I always spend just a moment just to switch off from everything and concentrate on listening to the waves. And it just sort of centers me a bit. And last year I took up cold water swimming. And actually I ended up really enjoying it from sort of being a bit nervous about it. I really enjoyed the cold water swimming. So I'm going to continue that this year as well.
I'm actually going for a cold water swim this afternoon. I live in a seaside town, so I very much spend much of my self-care is in the sea or on the beach.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Awesome. We've got some great examples there. One of the things that we came up with when we first started Spark was our own self-care acts. So we saw this thing which was called 10 a day, which was created by universities, and it was 10 things young people can do to support their mental well-being. And we weren't the biggest fan of it. We saw some of these. One of them, which always sticks with us, was do something you enjoy and are good at. And my opinion was, why should you be good at something to enjoy it? My example always is I absolutely love singing. I cannot sing for the life of me. So it's great self-care, but I can't do it very well. So why should they sort of do that? But we've got our self-care acts here, which we then created with young people and we got designed. So we've got exercise, which has been mentioned already. We've got take a digital detox day, which is incredibly hard. I think every single person ever will find it very difficult to do a digital detox day because it is so engraved in every aspect of our life now. It's so integrated, and it's so difficult to sort of take a step away from that. We've also got take a rest, which that could be going for a sleep, or it could be lying on the sofa and watching Netflix. It could be a very broad sense of take a rest. We've got ask for help. So that could be professionally asking for help. So that could be going to sort of ringing up support lines. That could be speaking to organisations such as Couth, or it could be asking friends for help. It could be going for a rant with a friend about something that's annoyed you that day, which I'm a firm believer that rants are great. Or everybody needs that one friend you can sit and rant to for hours. The next one is expressing yourself. It's hugely important to be yourself. Young people find that really difficult to express themselves a lot of the time because it's very difficult to sort of be yourself as a teenager because there's so many sort of peer pressures, there's so many societal expectations. It's very difficult for young people to do that. Do something you enjoy. Again, as I said, hugely important. And that is very broad. It could be literally anything you enjoy doing. Speaking to your favorite people, that could be family, friends, colleagues, anyone, and it could be about anything. It's just having a conversation. And the last one is eat something you like, which doesn't have to be healthy. As I said earlier, it doesn't have to be healthy as long as it helps you. So I'm going to talk a bit now about my journey. As you can see here is a very embarrassing picture of me in my reception nativity. A very long time ago, it seems like. And then here is me a few weeks ago. Yeah, I'm going to share my journey. And this is one example out of the millions of young people there are in the UK. And this is one example of what young people might be going through. I'm going to share my journey, then I'm going to show you some wider picture stuff. So here is me in primary school. I lived in mid-Devon and I had really bad anxiety when I was younger. I was going through the Thrive approach, which some of you might be aware of or might have come across, which is a more creative approach to counselling. And I also had really bad asthma when I was younger, which meant that pretty much every Christmas for the first 10 years of my life, all I remember is being in hospital, struggling to breathe, which obviously being a sort of a child was very difficult, and that had a massive impact on my mental health because I wasn't able to go do PE. I wasn't able to do all these things because I was struggling to breathe, basically. And then at the end of year 6, my parents divorced, and that created a big thing as a 11-year-old. I had to basically pick up my life and move, and that was quite difficult. And I ended year 6 thinking I was going to one secondary school, and over the summer I ended up going to a completely different secondary school in a different county. So for me, I knew nobody. I started secondary school not knowing a single person, living in North Devon. Here is me on my first ever day of year 7. Before I had glasses, it was, very nerdy kid. And yeah, I joined year 7 not knowing a single person. I didn't know anything about the area I was living in. And it was really difficult because I went from being quite a big fish in a small pond in primary school to being a very tiny fish in a huge pond in secondary school. And I didn't know where to go for support. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anything when I first started. And then I sort of started making friends in tutor groups. But in the first few years of secondary school, any of you as secondary school teachers will know it can be quite toxic. It can be quite very dramatic, very, stuff that feels like the end of the world when you're in it, which in reality is ridiculous. But yeah, I went through a lot of different sort of toxic friendship groups. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who my friends were. I didn't know what person I wanted to be. And then lockdown happened. I was year 9 when lockdown happened. So it was, right in the middle of secondary school. And during lockdown, I realised I was gay, which again, in North Devon is not necessarily something that is spoken about much. And I was like the only person in my school, basically, that was out as gay. And that resulted in me sort of lacking self-confidence. I didn't know how to be myself. I didn't know how to I didn't want to put myself out there too much because I was worried about the consequences of if I did that. And it was a very difficult time, sort of the start of secondary school. It was a lot about developing and learning who I am, which meant a lot of trial and error. I think everybody, trial and error is a very important thing. And it was about finding my people, finding many groups of friends. I'm in a very lucky position now where actually I am a bit of a collector as such. So I collect friends. So I go through different friend groups and I'll make friends. And now I'm lucky that I've got about 20 friends all in different friendship groups. So it means if I fall out of one group of friends, I've got another group of friends to go to. But yeah, it kind of meant that I had to learn, and that was sort of a very rocky road for me, trying to, navigate that. Here is me on my last day of year 11. So this is the latter half of secondary school. I'd finally come out as gay, and I had a large friendship group. I'd finally found my people that I actually was out every night with. We were actually being teenagers. We were actually going out and enjoying ourselves. We were having a good time. This was around the time that I'd set up Spark as well. So everything was going quite full on with that. And actually I was quite emotionally unstable. I was still very much trying to work out what I wanted in life. I felt very overworked. I didn't really know, how to say no to things. I think that's something that people really struggle with. And I am learning to get better at is how to say no, how to stop doing things. And that also resulted in me not doing great in my exams, because I, was overworked. I didn't really, as I said when I started earlier, I cannot do exams for the life of me on a good day. So add in a bit of other stuff going on and everything falls apart. We've then got me in year 12. So this is last year. And I developed a sort of hidden eating disorder where basically I couldn't eat out in public. I would be absolutely fine. My food would arrive and I'd lose all appetite. And I've had this for the past 2 years, and it's something I'm still navigating in my life, and it's still something that I'm learning to deal with. But that was something that was really difficult because I didn't know what it was. I was talking to GPs, doctors, counselors, therapists, and nobody could tell me what it was because nobody knew themselves. So it was this really difficult thing to try and navigate. And it was something I kept hidden for a long time because I was quite ashamed of it. Because actually, for me, it was like I was out in a restaurant, I'd spent money on food, and then I couldn't eat any of it. So I had all my friends asking why I wasn't eating. I had waiters coming over and checking my food was okay because I wasn't eating it. And that had a really big impact on me because I really then got more anxious about going out. And since I've learned actually it's anxiety-induced sickness, so it's related to anxiety. And I've learned that it's my body's way of controlling when I'm out of control. So that's what I've learned in the past few months that I've learned to sort of navigate and learn to deal with. I also had no work-life balance. I was working ridiculously hard. I think I was working 5 jobs at one point to try and make money, but also do the things I enjoyed. So for me, I was really struggling to actually get that balance of being a teenager, also having to make money and run an organization and all this kind of stuff. And I was afraid to say no. I think every entrepreneur you ever speak to, at some stage, even teachers, even anybody that works in any profession, are afraid to say no. They have a thing where, you have to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way because you don't want to miss out on it. I think my biggest no that I learned was I had to say no to an all-expenses trip to Gibraltar because I had school to go to. I think that was the most challenging thing for me because I was like, I want to say no to this opportunity to go and talk in Gibraltar, but it's because I have to go to school. And that was a really difficult thing for me because I wasn't wanting to miss out on any opportunities. I wanted to ensure that I was doing as much as I possibly could while I had it here. I also ended up, again, having no self-confidence. I went through a really tricky time. I went through a lot of stuff was going on. I had lost my whole friendship group. So that big friendship group I had in year 11, everybody went their separate ways. Everybody started going to other colleges or apprenticeships or different friend groups, and it slowly fizzled out. And I'm somebody that I need those sort of cemented scaffolding pillars in my life. So I have friendships, I have career, I have family, and these are strong scaffolds I sort of have in my life. And during this time, I basically had every scaffold fall over. And that was really challenging. And that also meant that it was a lot harder for me to actually go out and sort of escape with my friends because there was lots going on. I also had lots of changes sort of with my family. I had 2 weddings and a new brother born in the space of 6 months, with both my parents getting married. So again, that was a lot of changing my life. And also I had this thing where pretty much every teenager goes through at least once, is I had no sense of direction in my life. Every year 12 student is sat down one day and says, what do you want to do with your life? You need to apply to university. You need to map out the next 20 years of your life, basically, of what do you want to do? And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was told by my school that I was basically expected to apply to university. I got pressured into submitting applications to universities because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I didn't know whether I could do the organisation full time or whether I had to go to university or I had to go get a job. And, I say this to every single person I speak to. Obviously, I can't see you all, but hands up if you actually know what you want to do in life right now. I don't think there is a single person I've ever spoken to, no matter if you're 70, you still don't know what you want to do with life. You still don't know what you want to do when you grow up. I think it's so difficult to get young people to choose what they want to do in life at the age of 17, 18. And that was something that really impacted me because I had this stress of, well, I have to apply to university now, because otherwise, what am I going to do with my life? And that obviously had a massive impact. And that is an impact that I see in young people up and down the country, is actually, my friends, they still don't know what they want to do. I've got friends that don't know what they want to do in September, a month away. They're still looking at universities, they're still looking at apprenticeships. And it is this massive pressure that is put on young people that's really difficult. And yeah, I also sort of was diagnosed with low mood and anxiety as well. And then year 13. So this photo was taken on my prom a few weeks ago with my best mate. I finally opened up about my eating issue. I put a post up on social media saying this is what I have, and I put it out as a bit of peace of mind for me, I'm going to put my hands up and say this is what I've experienced. And I had so many messages from other people saying that they'd experienced a similar thing, that they didn't know what it was, and they thought they were alone in that too. And for me, that really helped. That really made me realize that, no matter what you're going through, you're not the only person going through that. There is so many other people going through that you might not realize. And equally highlighted that, everybody goes through stuff. These people that were messaging me, I would never in a million years have expected them to be going through anything as well. So it really sort of opened my eyes to actually other people are going through stuff. I also started counselling weekly. So I learned to look after myself. I learned to actually put myself first and go and seek help and go and actually seek professional help. And that is something that really helped me to learn a lot about myself and learn about what I wanted, because it allowed me a safe space where I could rant, as I said basically earlier. So important to just sit and rant to a professional for an hour that isn't going to sit and judge me. And that allowed me to feel so much more confident in myself, because I learned about myself a lot more. So I knew who I wanted to be, and I knew how I could do that. I found mentors to support me, both personally and professionally. So again, I wasn't alone. I wasn't doing stuff by myself. If I was struggling, I could message somebody or give somebody a ring and they would help me. And I had a clear plan for the next 12 months. I had a clear plan of what I want to do now, what I want to do for the next 12 months. And that is something I am constantly looking at, is actually reevaluating that, making sure that I'm on the right path, that I'm on the right, it's the next 12 months. It's not the rest of my life. It's 12 months. And then in 12 months' time, I'll sit and decide the next 12 months, and very much having those baby steps, one step at a time. And that's the most important thing. So that's a very brief description of my journey. I've got another question, is what helps your mental health? So again, if you can write in the comments, what is it that helps your mental health? It'd be great to sort of get some answers to that, maybe, if anybody would like to.
I think it was interesting what you were saying, Conor, and actually, so much happening in such a short space of time. And that's fairly typical for teenagers, isn't it? The pace of life for you is, I was reading that and I was sort of thinking, gosh, me as an adult, I'm not having to deal with all of those kind of pressures all at once. So it was very interesting to hear it from that point of view. And of course, you're I don't know if you've heard of a book called 100-Year Life. And you're basically living that, aren't you? Where you're going to live a lot longer. So you don't need to cement those things like perhaps we did when we were younger, or our parents insisted that we did when we were younger. Like, these are the steps that you take. You can actually take your time and have a bit more of a squiggly career, which is another book that is very good to read. But yeah, thank you, Paul. You've added a comment in the chat.
Get some reassurance. Yeah, 100% reassurance, sense of security. I think that's something, a big thing that supports so many people, is actually knowing that what you're doing is right, that you're making the right decisions, that you're making the right choices. I think that 100%.
And talking about it, that's the way to do it, isn't it? Really, it's like you said, you didn't realize other people are going through this, and I think especially for you guys, where social media is so important in your lives, and you see everything so sculpted and perfect and filtered, and you forget to actually see beyond that people are struggling. And so it's nice to have those conversations, like you say, spark the conversation.
100%. Yes. Awesome. So some things that help me. So here is me and my mates. Having a secure group of friends, as I said, that is one of the fundamental pillars for me in my life. I need friends. I need a secure group of people that I trust. I'm in a really lucky position now where all my best mates are guys, which actually, when sort of growing up in secondary school, that was something I didn't have because I was gay. I didn't necessarily have any guy friends because people didn't necessarily want to associate themselves, which unfortunately a lot of sort of young gay teenagers have to deal with. And now I'm in a really lucky position where all my friends are guys, and it allows me to kind of just be myself, and they allow me to be myself. And that is something that's hugely important and really helps me. Another one, asking for help, as we said, reassurance, asking for help when you need that, and actually allowing constructive criticism. I think that can be very difficult, but sometimes that is very important to help you grow as a person. Another thing was learning to accept myself. So again, that was something that was really difficult, was to actually accept myself for who I am and actually grow in that, and prioritizing myself, prioritizing my own mental health, my own mental well-being first. You know, as Katie said earlier, it's very difficult. You know, as a teacher, for example, you're prioritizing your students, you might prioritize your children, your other halves, but in reality, you need to be prioritizing yourself. Because if you don't prioritize yourself, you can't help other people. You can't prioritize other people because you're pouring from an empty cup. Learning to say no, again, as I said earlier, that's really helped me. Learning to actually understand when I need to take a break. That was hugely important. I actually went away. I've had 2 weeks of annual leave that I've come back from this week. And that was 1 week of planned holiday away. But actually, I took another week where I decided that I needed to take a break. I needed to take a step to focus on other things and sort of focus on myself for a week. And that's been really important. And, you know, it's not everybody's in a position where they can go and take 2 weeks off because they need to. But taking a break could just be, you know, stop marking a few hours earlier and having an evening to yourself, or prioritizing a Saturday or a Sunday to spend with family, or just little things like this. It doesn't have to be, you know, a whole 2 weeks off. It can be a few hours of just having a break. And I think that is really important, and learning what your body is saying and listening to what your body is saying. And those are kind of my fundamental things that have helped me get better and kind of grow in who I am. So as I said, that is one example of millions and millions of young people across the UK and what they might be going through. I'm going to show you a very quick, wider picture. Most of you have probably seen the statistics a million times, but it really just shows the levels of where we are right now. So 1 in 6 children aged between 5 and 16 were identified as having a probable mental health problem. Suicide was the leading cause of death for males and females aged between 5 to 34 in 2019. 83% of young people with mental health needs agreed that the coronavirus pandemic had made their mental health worse. So obviously this is something that we can kind of expect, sadly, in some ways, but it's just showing these statistics. And 11 to 16-year-olds with a probable mental health disorder were less likely to feel safe at school than those unlikely to have a mental health disorder. And they were also less likely to report enjoyment of learning or having a friend they can turn to for support. So again, these are really sort of, you know, hits home in many ways of actually the levels of where we are right now with youth mental health. But what's caused this? I think this is something that you see in the news all the time. And for me, there's 4 main pillars. We could go on for absolute hours and hours and hours and talk about what's caused this. This is 4 key points of things that have potentially caused it. There are lots of other things as well. Social media is a top one. I think that is probably the most prominent in the news right now, the impact social media is having on young people. And I actually stand in a very different position to many, where I actually think that social media can have many positives, but it's about sort of moderation and regulation. It's about ensuring that young people are looking at things that they want to. I am a strong believer that social media is personal. Social media can be made to be yours. You can choose what you engage with, what you like, what accounts you follow. So the more positive accounts you follow, the more, you know, cat memes and motivational sort of pages you follow, the more your social media is going to look like that. Whereas the more, you know, Love Island influencers you follow and beauty accounts and those kind of things, that's what your social media is going to look like. So for me, a lot of the stuff I try to say is actually, it's about sort of regulating your social media, is about kind of looking at the ways in which kind of young people can moderate their own social media, and they can customize their social media to create something that they can actually support them, rather than creating it as kind of a thing that hinders their mental health as such. But social media can have a huge amount of positives. You know, living in North Devon, there's not much diversity around here. There's not much anything around here. So by having social media, it's allowed me to be a lot more educated. And equally, in the setup of Spark and where Spark is right now, that is all down to social media. That is all down to putting stuff on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. So social media can have social media can have lots of positives. Stumbling over my words there, but it's about that sort of moderation and that regulation. Every single person in the world knows that COVID-19 has had a massive impact on young people's mental health. Everybody knows the realities of that. I'm not going to go into that because it's very evident. The rise of reality TV, such as Love Island and the return of Big Brother, these reality shows are actually, young people are thinking it is reality, as it is in the name, but actually it's a kind of produced reality. It is what the producers want, what the producers think will make the most money, what will get the most views. And unfortunately, a lot of young people don't realise that. So they are watching these reality TVs thinking it is reality, thinking this is the lives that I want to live. This is how I should act. This is what I should look like. And actually, that's not the case. You are, for example, on Love Island, you are seeing tops 1 hour of a 24-hour day. That's what's being aired. You're not seeing the other bits. I had a friend's brother was on the most recent series of Love Island, and he was in for about a week. I don't know a thing about Love Island. I believe he was one of the Casa Amor boys. I don't know what that means. If anybody here is a Love Island fan, don't come for me. I don't know what that means. But yeah, he was on that series, and upon coming out, he was portrayed as, I think he got 30 seconds of screen time in the week he was on Love Island. And he is, you know, really, he's been talking about the fact that actually he's been portrayed as somebody that couldn't talk to girls because, you know, all of his 30-second conversation he had was aired with him fumbling over talking to a girl, when in reality, he actually had many different conversations and actually went very different. And that's a prime example of this sort of producer's view, this producer's outlook on what the reality TV should. And it is about selling. It is about getting views, getting things that will work. And sadly, lots of young people don't realize that. So they are acting in this way that they are seeing these reality TV people acting, and that is not quite real, and that's not quite true to life. And the last one, there's more pressures on young people. There are so many pressures on young people, whether it is, you know, things like jobs. A lot of young people, especially teenagers, need to work jobs as well. So as well as being in education, they then have to work weekend jobs or evening jobs. As I said, I live in North Devon. It's a very summer seasonal place. So every single person I know has pretty much worked since the age of 13 during the summer holidays and during all holidays, because that's just the way that young people have to get money here. So that's a big pressure, because young people are having to balance homework on top of jobs. And there's just so many other things for young people that they have to kind of deal with and they have to have. So yeah, that's kind of a bit about the causes. And I recognise that the last 40 minutes, I've basically been talking about a load of negatives. I've basically been saying, yeah, this is what young people are going through. This is what's wrong. And I don't like to be a pessimist. So I always like to spend the last bit of time actually coming with some productive tips of what you can do, because that is what you're all here for, how to support your students' mental health. So let's give you some tips on how you can support your young people. So I always say this in 3 key messages: empower young people, be a role model, and remain relevant. These are 3 top tips that I always try and encourage, whether you are a teacher, teaching assistant, safeguarding lead, whether you're a foster carer, parent, anybody. These are 3 things that I try and encourage everybody to do. The first one, empower young people. So open communication. Young people want to be treated as young adults. Anybody that has teenagers at home will know that teenagers want to be treated like young adults now. They don't want to be looked down upon. They want to be treated equally. And when you're trying to engage with young people, when you're trying to have conversations with them about mental health and about mental well-being, you need to have that open communication. It needs to work 2 ways. They want to be treated like young adults, so don't, talk down upon them. Talk levelly with them and talk how you would talk to a friend or how you would talk to another colleague. Talk to them like they are adults. Youth voice is a huge thing right now, encouraging young people to actually have a say. Many schools, the majority of schools, will have some sort of youth voice. I know some schools unfortunately don't have youth voice, and those schools, it's a lot harder for the young people within those schools because they feel like they don't have a say in what's going on. There's sort of one main thing, which is the mental health ambassador schemes that we sort of work on as an organisation. When I first sort of got into mental health, I took part in a mental health ambassador scheme myself when I was in year 7. Here is a very cringy picture of me back in year 7. You can also see some of the other team members in there. That's how we all met. That's how the whole Spark team met, doing this mental health ambassador scheme at school. And it really allowed us to learn about mental health and learn how to support other young people, and it allowed us to grow confidence. I made so many friends through this. As I said, I was year 7 at the time. One of my best mates, Sam, he was year 10 at the time. So there's a 4-year age gap. We would not have spoken at all if it hadn't been for this scheme. And now we still talk on a regular basis. And this is 7 years later, we're still talking. The majority of these people in this picture I still talk to. And it really allowed us to bond over something such as mental health. And the last one is collaboration, work alongside young people. Some of the best work is done by young people. If you look at some of the top campaigns right now, there was the Have Your Say campaign over in Manchester that was a group of young people, and they managed to get 500,000 young people to register to vote in 1 day, which is incredible. And that was young people doing that. Also look at some of the top influencers in the world. You've got people like Greta Thunberg. You've got all these people that are young people. They're all, teenagers. We've got locally, some of you might have come across the boy in the tent, who is a local guy. He's 13 now, and he camped in a tent for 2 years, and he raised over £1 million for a local charity. So, young people have the ideas. Young people are able to do these things. So why wouldn't you work with them? Why wouldn't you collaborate with them to try and create an approach that works for everyone? The next one is be a role model. So integrity, it is a huge thing. Many schools, including my school, had integrity as a school value, as a pillar of the school in which you need to follow. And actually that should come into conversations as well. So display honesty and transparency in every interaction you have. You need to emphasize the importance of what is right, even when it might be challenging. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, sort of take this personally. If you were to talk to somebody about your own mental health, are you likely to actually open up to them if you feel like they're putting a brick wall in front of them? If they are not sort of showing integrity, if they're not showing kind of respect, honesty, open communication, you're not going to talk to them about stuff. So think about young people. Think about these young people that might have been waiting months, building up the courage to talk to somebody about their mental health, and they go and speak to this person, and they feel like they're talking to a brick wall. Again, active listening. There's these 2 things of listening. You're active listening, you've got passive listening. When somebody's coming to you to talk about mental health, always try and model active listening skills to show that their perspectives are valued. As I said earlier, when I was year 7, some of the things that I thought were the end of the world, I would sit and laugh at now. You know, friendship groups, breakups, year 7 breakups are difficult. It might seem absolutely stupid to you right now as a teacher who has to deal with that every day. But for these young people, that is real. So these things that these young people are coming to you for, that they're talking to you about, it might seem ridiculous, it might seem completely, you know, irrelevant. But for them, it is their life. It is what they are feeling at that moment. So no matter how small it seems, always listen and try to show that you are listening and show that their values and perspectives are valued. And the last bit is a quote which I absolutely love, is experts in experience. We are all experts in experience. I know so many teachers that say, well, I don't know about mental health, so how can I teach about it? Well, you're a person. Everybody has mental health. Everybody has good days. Everybody has bad days. You are an expert in experience. You can, you know, talk to a student, and if they are saying they're having a bad day, what do you do when you're having a bad day? Have that actually human conversation with them and say, well, you know, this isn't an answer. It might not work for you, but when I'm having a bad day, I go for a walk. Things like that. You're an expert in experience. So although you might not feel like you're an expert, you very much are. And the last one is probably the hardest thing to do, which is remaining relevant. I think in the current society, it can be very, very difficult to feel like you're relevant because the world is constantly changing. So obviously, in an ideal world, you continue researching. You try to keep up with current trends, what young people are looking at, what young people are talking about, whether that is TikTok, scrolling through TikTok and seeing what young people are actually talking about. But even things like what's going on in the news, what are young people actually caring about? You know, Taylor Swift is touring the UK. So many teenagers are talking about that at the minute. So you got things like that. The hardest thing probably is using the correct terminology. So that could be, you know, a whole range of things. It could be pronouns. It could be words such as suicide and self-harm. It could be things to do with sexuality. And, you know, we are all human. We're all going to make mistakes. And it's important that, you know, if you do make a mistake, if you do use the wrong terminology, you listen and you actually allow the young people to educate you. So if you are, you know, in a respectful way being corrected on a terminology that you might have used wrong, actually listen and show that you are learning from that and then trying to sort of correct that, because, you know, we are human. We all make mistakes. You know, we all sometimes don't use the correct terminology because we are so used to using other terminology that it can be difficult to then actually stay up to date on what terminology you are supposed to use. So it's not about getting it right straight away or all the time. It's just sometimes about throwing your hands in the air when you get it wrong and just saying, teach me, tell me where I went wrong. And that way, again, it creates that relationship between you and the students or you and the young people. Again, another quote which I absolutely love is support should be baked in opposed to bolted on. Mental health should be baked into everything within the school. So, you know, it should not be something that you only do on awareness days. I know so many schools that will just do a day-long assembly or a day-long workshops on World Mental Health Day and on Children's Mental Health Weeks and tick the box and say, yep, that's done. In reality, it should be baked in. It should be, you know, embedded into tutor programs. Or, you know, mental health can be brought into pretty much any subject you want. You could have maths, you could have English, you could have anything. You can, in some way, sort of baking mental health. And the final one is using up-to-date resources. So again, that can be very difficult because there are so many charities out there. There are so many organisations out there that provide resources for schools. Some are free, some are paid. And actually, it can take up a lot of time trying to research what's the best resources to use. And a lot of teachers will go straight to the ones they trust, which unfortunately are often the ones that are quite outdated. I always describe videos in mental health as early 2000 BBC Three documentaries, which is the polite way of putting it. Anybody that works in education will know that. But it's about sort of researching, looking at up-to-date resources, looking at resource hubs, looking at organisations such as ourselves, doing a shameless plug there, where we put our resources up on our websites for free. But looking at resources and kind of finding ways in which they are going to relate to young people and relate to the people in your class or that you are teaching. So that is the 3 ways that you can support your young people: empower young people, be a role model, and remain relevant. I am very conscious that I've just rambled on for the past 50 minutes. So I'm going to open the floor to questions if anybody has any questions. Thank you all very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's those key areas to think about being an adult and having those conversations as well. It is really important, isn't it? It's not just about being cool and knowing the right terminology. It's about really listening to, you know, how young people feel about that, and is this happening in their lives? And yeah, I think it's really interesting what you're saying there. So yeah, it'd be great to have some questions. Please type them in the chat if you've got anything that you'd like to ask Conor. I would like to know, Conor, it's setting up Spark and having all of this going on at the same time. Was there a point where you found that Spark was hindering you, or was it more helping you with some of the issues that you were facing as a young person?
Yeah, I think to start with, it felt almost like it was hindering. I think to start off with, I felt like because I was running a mental health charity, I had to act perfect all the time. And I think I felt like I couldn't actually struggle with stuff myself, because that looks bad on the charity if the founder and the face of the charity is struggling. So that was something that I had to learn to kind of deal with. And now actually it's helping me so much more, because I am actually practicing what I preach, which I think you speak to any CEO of any mental health charity. We're not the best at practicing what we preach, because it is very difficult to do that. But yes, I definitely think that to start with, it was hindering, but now it's very much complementing and helping me and really allowing me to actually fully look after myself and fully kind of ensure that I am looking after my mental health.
Good. And I'm going to ask a really annoying question, which is, like, where do you see the charity going? What are you excited about this year? So yeah, what are your charity's plans for the future?
Plans of the future. We have got so many exciting projects coming up soon. As I said, we've got the Advent calendar back for the 4th year this year. So that's coming out on the 10th of October. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We are also launching a new program called Sparks of Knowledge, which I'm really looking forward to, which is a short form video project. So as I said a minute ago, videos in mental health in education are typically out of date early 2000 BBC Three documentaries, which are completely and utterly outdated for young people. They are so boring to watch. They're an hour long. I remember sat through PCRE lessons and absolutely hating them. But we are sort of creating these short form videos that are basically TikToks on mental health to be used in the classroom, involving celebrities and involving young people. So they are engaging, they are able to complement what you're teaching. So, you know, you don't have to use our lesson plans with these videos. These can be used however you want. They can be used in tutor times, they can be put on school social media pages, but it's a project we're really looking forward to. And actually we've got all the equipment arriving this afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to. We've got new cameras coming, we've got all sorts, so I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, we've really sort of grown as an organisation, and yeah, sort of looking at how we can support young people in as many ways as we can.
And because I know at the moment all your resources and everything that you've got on your website is all free, isn't it, for schools and for young people? Is that going to remain like that? You know, is it always going to be free for people?
Absolutely. I think that is one of our fundamental things as an organisation. So when we first started, we were talking to ourselves and we said, you know, we want to grow as an organisation. We want to get schools to sign up. And initially we did want to charge. But we thought, actually, schools have such limited budgets right now. Schools have limited budgets on everything, let alone on mental health. So when it comes to schools spending their budgets, they are less likely to spend money on a smaller organisation. They're more likely to put money into an organisation they trust, such as Anna Freud or Place2Be, or these bigger organisations. So for us to be able to remain relevant, to ensure that we are helping as many young people as possible, everything we do is free, and it is completely supported by grants and donations and fundraising events. So yeah, we really try to keep everything free for schools as much as we possibly can.
It's incredible, just completely removing that barrier so everyone can have access. That's really nice to hear. And yeah, lots of nice comments on the chat as well. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them, Conor.
Yes, thank you. I've got our website on the screen now as
yeah.
well, so you can head to the website and sign up for schools if you want to.
Yeah, and I will put a link to the resources in the YouTube video as well, so everyone can see that. But yeah, really nice comments from a couple of people there. John saying, it's a shame that mental health is an issue in our country, but it's really great to see people doing something about it. And I totally agree. You're really sort of challenging us, aren't you? I think as adults, as human beings, to sort of say, you know what, this is what young people want, and this is our voice, and this is how we're going to use it, and this is how you can support us in that. And it doesn't have to be, like you said, a teacher initiative within a school. It could be the students, but they might just need that little bit of help of putting those pieces together. And you've got all of that on your website, haven't you? Everything that they need to kind of support young people's mental health, it's all there. And those people, once they grow and leave, other people will fill their shoes, won't they? And it will just keep evolving, and they'll take that practice into their workplace, into their volunteering work, or whatever it is they do. And so yeah, just slowly and surely we'll just build up a really positive conversation about mental health and how we can look after each other.
Yeah, that's our aim. It's to train up students from as young as primary schools on just how to look after themselves. It's not, we don't do crisis support, we do early intervention. So we are providing these young people with the skills to look after themselves. And that is, fundamental, that then they grow in life and we build up the next generation of young people who are actively looking after themselves and actively engage with mental health.
Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful. It's been such a pleasure having you on, and thank you for, as someone said it in the chat as well, for your honesty, because it's a difficult thing, isn't it, to talk about yourself and admit areas that you're not proud of or that you felt vulnerable, and you did that so beautifully, Conor. And I think you are really quite an inspiration, so it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you
for having me.
Yeah, and do follow Conor. His links are on there, and I will put some other links in the chat as well if you want to find out about the resources and start, creating a bit of a momentum in your school. That would be fantastic. So lots more to come from Conor in the future. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Bye-bye.